that I'm yours and you are mine. Our love is the secret that I find. I'll spend forever in the pleasure I found looking in your eyes. Give me Jesus, give me Jesus. You can have all this. silver, more than gold. You are the treasure that I hold. Now that I'm tasted of your goodness, nothing else will satisfy. Just give me a Jesus. Give me a Jesus. You can have all this world, and you can have all this world. Just give me a Jesus. Give me a Jesus, and you can have all this world, and you can have all this world. Just give me Jesus. Sing along. I hope you guys just listen to the lyrics, or in any way try to focus on Jesus whenever you're listening to this song. It shows how much you love him, and yeah. And I don't want anyone else, and I don't need anything else, 'cause you are my one thing. You are my one thing. I don't want anyone else, and I don't need anything else, 'cause you are my one thing. You are my one thing. I don't want anyone else, and I don't need anything else, 'cause you are my one thing. You are my one thing, and I don't want anyone else, and I don't need anything else, 'cause you
Good morning, Kindness Online. How are you doing today? Valley and South Bay, I hope you guys had a great week. Hope you had a great Christmas. We're very happy and excited joining us for worship today. And I just want to take a quick minute before we start our service to just kind of recap what's been happening and explain what's going to happen going forward. The last 3 months or so has been kind of like a trial period for Kainos Online and both of your churches. And so we wanted to see if this works. This is like a brand new thing. I don't think anyone's ever done something like this before, especially not in the Korean Adventist community. And so we just wanted to make sure the theory of Kainos Online is viable. So on our side, we wanted to make sure operationally and technically that this is something we could do. And then on your side, we wanted to make sure that this was something that is an actual like help for the church, both this online worship part and the afternoon in-person part with Aram. And so we've had some conversations. We've talked to leadership from both churches, the pastors, and we are going to extend it, and we're going to try in the year 2026 to kind of implement this further. And so what we really need from all of you is your feedback. Things you liked, things you didn't like, things you want changed, removed, added, whatever it is, even if it's something small, just please let Adam know. And this is how we're able to kind of form Kainos Online to meet the needs of your churches specifically, both Valley and South Bay. For us on like the production side, we're not able to join the churches every week, so your feedback through Adam is very important, and that helps us kind of create a more tailored worship for all of you. And so for 2026, as we kind of go forward together, as we recommit and move into this new year, we really hope that this service helps your church and helps your church grow. The purpose of Kainos Online is not to just create worship videos for your churches like forever. Ultimately, at some point, this is just meant to help you get to the next level, to begin the growth process, so that you're able to kind of create your own worship services and take the next step in your church's ministry. So this is a temporary solution to help the churches kind of get back on their feet and kind of vision cast for the future to see what your church can do for your local community and take that next step forward. So that's kind of what we exist to do, is to support our churches, to give them that little extra push to begin their vision and their ministry and their God-given mission for their area. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today for our worship thought, is this idea of community and church growth. I mean, every church wants to grow. Every church says that they want to grow. But really, like, the question is, how does a church grow? And I'm not talking about growth in like the numerical sense. I'm talking about growth in like the missional vision sense. Like, how can a church grow and move forward? How can a church do the mission that God has given that church to do? And ultimately, there's a lot of different factors and a lot of different things that go into it. But at the core, the foundation of any church growth is community. You need a group of people who see the vision, who are in it to kind of help make this vision a reality. And that's the first and most important step of church growth. And that community is like the foundation for other people to come and experience. As humans, as living organisms, this is true for all living organisms, humans, animals, plants, bacteria. We are naturally attracted to healthy atmospheres, healthy situations, healthy communities. This is like a very basic biological thing in all of creation, right? If there's a healthy place or a healthy atmosphere, a healthy community, we tend to kind of draw closer to it. And if there's an unhealthy atmosphere or community, we naturally move away from it. And so the question and the goal is for the church to have true healthy community that attracts the people from the outside. That is the first and most important step in church growth. So today we want to talk about how that exactly happens, and more importantly and specifically, what is healthy community, right? Because that phrase or term, healthy community, is so broad. Like anything can be community, anything can be healthy, but we have very specific understanding of healthy community. And when we say healthy community in the context of church, what we really are saying is God's vision for community. What is God's definition and understanding of community? So let's move forward. I am 38 years old. I am what we call an elder millennial. So that is an old millennial. And my generation, my people, my group, there's this word that we kind of use somewhat often. It's called tribe. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Like we'll say like, oh, this is my tribe. And what we mean to say is these are my people. Like we are close, we are together, we are united, we have each other's back. This is my tribe. And we don't really use the word community. So if you think about the word community in the broader sense, in a we call it secular sense, a community is very simple. It's just a group of people who have a similar goal or interest or some common link throughout the group. So anything can be community. There's bird watching communities, there's like football watching communities, there's food communities, there's like book reading communities. Like anytime you have a group of people with a common goal or interest, that's a community. So a community can be very broad. A community can be very wide. Like you don't need to have like super close, intimate relationships with people in your community, right? Tribe is different. Tribe, it just has a more intimate sense, right? It's like it seems closer, it seems more tight-knit. And so what exactly is a tribe? Well, the original kind of use of the word tribe, if you remember from like history class, it was usually used to describe what we call indigenous cultures or Native American culture, right? And so these groups of people, these tribes, they were like super close. And what was the function of the tribe? Ultimately, the function of the tribe was to provide for its people, for the people in its tribe. They protected each other, they like hunted together, they really just kept each other safe from other tribes and other sources of danger. And so really, if you think about it, a tribe is defined or made up of not what necessarily brings you together, but what you are opposing. Right? These tribes came to protect each other from other tribes, from people from the outside. That was their unifying cause. And so that's kind of how tribalism works even today. It's not so much a gathering of what brings you together, it's actually more of what you together commonly dislike, or trying to separate from, or isolate from, or trying to protect yourself from. And that is how tribes kind of come together. So you can see how it's like almost the opposite of community. Community is the commonality that brings you together. Tribe is a thing that you're trying to isolate or protect yourself from the outside that brings you together. And so oftentimes we find elements of tribalism in community. A community that was meant to kind of be unifying in its common goal or vision or idea is then defined by what makes you different from other communities. And then it becomes how can you protect your community versus other communities. And that community has now turned into a tribe. It is smaller, sure. It is, I guess, in a sense, more intimate. But is that true community? Is that true God-centered community? One thing we have to really consider when we talk about community and tribalism is this idea, this truth that the world is becoming a lonelier place. There has been scientific research as to what makes human happy, right? What contributes to our general happiness, and there's obviously a lot of different factors. And these scientists, these social researchers, they kind of collected all these factors and they created four kind of general things that make humans happy. And this is not like a complete or exhaustive list, but these are the four core major big picture things that make humans happy. Number one, a few close friends. Okay, these are people who are a part of your life. When like you're happy, they're happy. When you're sad, they're sad. They know everything about you. There's an intimate relationship. These are people who you consider like really, really good friends, close friends. Number two, family. And they don't necessarily limit this to like biology, but kind of like people who are like extremely close to you. So like your parents, your siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, but also like your best friend, the people who know you like almost more than you know yourself. That's two. Three is meaningful work. And the way they describe or define meaningful work is when you feel like you're making a contribution to the greater good. So your work, whatever it is, you feel like you're contributing to kind of like humanity's progress. That's what we call meaningful work. And then four is a theology or philosophy to make sense of life, specifically life and death. So if you look at these four things, close friends, family, meaningful work, and a theology or philosophy to make sense of life, you could argue that all four are relational by nature. So the first two obviously are super relational, right? Family and friends, that's literally relationships. Three, meaningful work. It's not just work. It's work that you feel like contributes to your community, to your group, right? That is a communal, relational idea. And the fourth, this theology or philosophy of making sense of life, specifically in life and death, right? The death of a loved one. That is a relational situation that we're trying to make sense of through our theology or philosophy. And it's actually not really that surprising when you think the things that make us the most happy are our relationships. Right? But here's the issue. Since the pandemic, since the shutdown and all the stuff that happened 5 years ago, pre-COVID, so before the pandemic, the average American had about 3.2 close friends. So again, these are people that know you really well, people you confide in, people that you know laugh with, cry with, eat with. These are the close people in your life. So pre-COVID, 3.2. Post-COVID, the average American has 1.9 close friends. So essentially in the last 5-6 years, the number of people whom we consider close friends has been cut essentially by half. There is a social scientist named Robert Putnam who wrote a book called Bowling Alone, and he studies kind of the loneliness epidemic that's been happening. And what he wrote is that based on his research, about 40% of Americans say they have 0 or 1 close friend. Okay? They have 0 or 1 person that they talk to when they're struggling, that they talk to when they're sad, talk to when they're going through difficult times. 0 to 1, 40%. Right? There's in our country, we have someone called a Surgeon General. He or she is the highest ranking doctor appointed by the president. They're in charge of essentially like public health. So health things that affect, the country from a very macro perspective. And one of the things that the Surgeon General does is he or she will release Surgeon General warnings. And so if there's something that they feel like is a potential hazard to the health of Americans, they'll release a warning. So like the most famous example was tobacco. There was a time when people didn't really know or didn't want to know that tobacco was extremely harmful for your health. And once the research was done and doctors got together and studied, the Surgeon General released a Surgeon General warning saying that tobacco can lead to cancer. So if you look at any box of cigarettes, there's a Surgeon General's warning stuck to the side that says this product will cause cancer. It was a public warning to America that this is harmful for your health. And so since then, there's been a bunch of different Surgeon General warnings. And a few years ago, the Surgeon General released another Surgeon General warning, this time about the negative impacts of loneliness in America. They said that the impact of loneliness on the average human is much more severe than we thought. It's not just like a relational social issue, it's actually a mental, emotional, and even physical issue that we have when we go through deep loneliness. In the UK, they created a new parliament position, the Ministry of Loneliness, to help battle that issue in Europe. And this is not just like a Western culture issue. This is true in Asia and Africa as well. This is really a global issue that we're going through, this issue of loneliness. Now, every region may process it differently. It might look differently in different countries, but ultimately we are becoming more and more isolated, right? This community that we need as humans is starting to go away, which is why it's so much more important for our churches to have a healthy community to help people who don't have that community themselves. So, for us to kind of really dive into not just what community is, but what God says community is, we're going to go to Romans chapter 12. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. For by grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourselves more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment, in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. Love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay," says the Lord. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So we kind of read through the whole chapter, and we're going to go back and kind of break it down section by section. So the first couple verses, right? It's this kind of famous phrase that we always use. Do not conform to the world. And we often use it to warn people, like, don't become like the world. Don't be influenced by the world, which is in part true. But what Paul is really saying here is don't define things by the way the world defines it. Define things by the way God defines it. This chapter is talking about community. It's talking about true God-centered community. And at the very beginning, he's saying, don't define community by the way the world defines community. Define community by the way God defines community. And that's something that's really important for us to understand. When we create God-centered community in our churches, it has to be God-centered in the sense of defined by what God says is community, not what the world says is community. Okay? So let's move forward. Okay, it says each and every one of you. This is a inclusive message. It's for everyone who reads, everyone who's part of a community. This is for them to understand. Right? And it talks about, again, we've heard millions of sermons about this. You know, we're all unique, and we each bring our unique gifts to the larger church. Right? The metaphor that we use It's like, arm and a leg. They're very different in function, but the body needs both to survive. Eyes and ears, they're very different in what they do, but we need both to survive. And whatever your unique gift and talent is, we bring that to the larger body or the larger community of the church. All of that, very true. We're all connected. What makes you unique is what you bring to this community. When we jump down to verse 9, it talks about love, right? So again, remember, this chapter is talking about community. So in the beginning, it says, don't let the world define what community is. Use God's definition. And then it talks about like how a community is made up, what it looks like. We're all different, but we all fit together in this larger puzzle of the community, which all makes sense. That's what community is. And then it talks about love. The first descriptor of community is love. And the reason why is because God's saying when you're in this community, you have to love each other. That's not some crazy thing. Like, we all understand this. When you're in community, you have to like each other, love each other, support each other. But he goes on to say, you don't just love the people in your community, you also love the people who are outside of your community. And that's where we start to make that split from community and tribalism. Because tribalism says we need to protect ourselves from people who are not in our community and isolate ourselves from people who are not in our community. God is saying, my true community, you need to love those who are not in your community, and you need to integrate with those who are not in your community. That is the first radical difference between how the world defines community and how God defines community. Creating tribes, tribalism is easy. It's easy to create groups based on what you hate. It's not that difficult. Community is hard, right? Because it involves a lot of peacemaking. When there's conflict, when people kind of start to have differing opinions, it's easier to just cut them out. It's like just you kick them out. That's it. You're done. Community is hard because now we have to reach out and we have to find commonality. We have to have a dialogue. We have to speak. We have to communicate with each other. It's much harder to create community, and this is kind of what is outlined in this passage. Yeah, community is really hard. But that's why it's so important, because it forces us to reach out to people who we disagree with and to create bridges, to have dialogue and communication to kind of reorient all of us back towards the mission that we have in hand. And it goes on to say, right, do not take revenge, live in peace. If your enemy is hungry, what? Feed him. If your enemy is thirsty, give them water. Right? And then it all kind of sums up in verse 21. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. And so this is God's definition of community. And so we have the difference between community and tribalism. Right? Community is a thing that brings us together. And we're joined together in love. And not only that, but when there's opposition, we're called to love them, to bring them into the community. Tribalism says if there's someone that opposes us, we separate from them, right? We create conflict with them. That's the difference between how the world defines community and how God defines community. And that is the definition of community that he wants for all of our churches to have also. To be a community of a church that supports and loves each other, but also extends it beyond the walls of the church to the people who are outside the community, and to bring those people into the community so that they can experience the love and hope of Jesus. That is what God calls our churches to do. The problem is a lot of people have become very distrusting of the church, or they've been kind of repelled or turned off by the church, or even pushed away from the church itself. Like I mentioned, I'm a millennial. My generation is a generation that's gone from our churches, right? We're like the lost generation. Most of my friends don't go to church. These are the friends that I grew up in church with. We did praise together, VBS together. We did all these things together, and they just simply don't come to church anymore. This is true kind of bi-coastal. I grew up in the East Coast. It's true there. I did ministry in the West Coast. It's true there. I'm living on the West Coast. It's true here. If you go to the South, it's true there. If you go to the North, it's true there. No matter where you go, this is the case. There's a lot of people have left the church for various reasons. And a lot of it, especially for my generation, is a lack of trust in the church. They don't trust the church community. Maybe because they've been harmed and hurt by it. Maybe because they've been pushed away by it. I don't really know the specifics, but a lot of people have experienced pain in the church. Some of you may have experienced pain in the church. The church is not a perfect entity, and we know this. And no matter how hard we try to do it, there's always going to be things that make it difficult. No matter how much we try to have God-centered, God-defined community, it's going to be hard when conflicts happen because we are human, because it's in our nature. There will be conflict, and we will struggle to do it. But that doesn't mean that church community should be thrown away. A pastor, John Mark Comer, he said this once, and I think it's a really beautiful quote. The church can be in the way of God, but it will never cease to also be the way to God. What he's saying is a lot of time the church will mess up, and the church will cause pain, and the church might push people away, and sometimes the church community will either unknowingly or knowingly drift into tribalism. It'll happen. But the church community is also the way to experience God. What he means is, if church community can be truly God-centered community, if it kind of holds to what God describes and explains a community is, then it can be this amazing transformational thing. It can be the thing that connects people with Jesus. He can help people experience community, a loving, warm community, and it can also help people experience the love and hope of Jesus. People who haven't experienced love, or people who don't feel like they have any hope. This is their way to experience those things through the church community and connect them with Jesus. That's why it's so important for our churches to not just have community, but to have true God-centered community, because that is the way we connect people with Jesus. And that is why in Romans it says our community must exist to serve the people outside the community. Because the goal of our church community is not to just make the members of the community happy and loved and safe. It's actually to help people outside the community experience those same things. The goal of our church community is not to look inside, but to look outside. That is what God calls our community to do. That is a difference between community and tribalism. Because tribalism is always looking inward. What can we do to protect our tribe? What can we do to make our tribe flourish? What can we do to make our tribe the best? And they don't care about the other outside people. And in fact, they don't want them to succeed because only their tribe should succeed. That is not God-defined, God-centered community. In fact, that's the opposite of what God calls our churches to do. And so as we move into 2026, as we start this, or not start, but as we continue this joint partnership and venture between South Bay Valley and Kainos Online, I hope and pray that our churches will start implementing some of those definitions and those principles and those characteristics of community that God lays out. That we will incorporate it not just into our church, but into our fellowship in the afternoon, in our worships online, and that we will really start building God's community in our church. That we'll start building it up to support each other for the purpose and the goal and vision of expanding it, to let other people in the area come to experience God's hope and love. Whether it's in the valley, in North LA, whether it's South Bay region, Orange County, Riverside, wherever we are, if all of our churches can do that, if all of our churches can create God-centered community, then we're building God's kingdom on earth. Then we're preaching the gospel. Then we're making meaningful change and transformation in the lives of the people around us. That's how we share the gospel. That's how we share the hope and love that Jesus has through our community. So my challenge to you, South Bay and Valley Church, in the next couple weeks, as we close out 2025, as we start 2026, spend some time in conversation. Like, really think about and talk about how your church, your specific church, can be a community that other people will come to. Right? What does that look like in South Bay, in Torrance, and in Palos Verdes and Redondo, in that area? What does that look like in Valley, in La Crescenta, even parts of LA? What does that look like in your immediate context, in your immediate community, in your immediate neighborhood? And what can your church do specifically to help your existing church community become one that's not just thriving in terms of like numbers or like having fun, but thriving in the sense that it is absolutely inundated and overflowing with God's hope and love, to the point where other people see it and feel just innately attracted to your healthy community? What can we do to make that happen? What can Kainos do to help make this happen? And as you work together, I really hope that in 2026, we will transform and change Southern California because of our church communities, and that people will experience love and hope of Jesus through Valley's church community, through South Bay's church community. That's the goal. That's the mission. Let's do whatever we can to make it happen in 2026. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you again for this time for us to worship, maybe in a untraditional way through online, but I thank you that we have this ability for us to come to worship together, not just as two isolated churches, but two churches that are worshiping together through you and with you. I pray that as we transition from 2025 to 2026, as we make that kind of switch from looking back on the past year and looking forward to the new year, I pray that you'll help both of our churches, Valley and South Bay, to start laying the foundation for true community, the community that you have outlined for us to do. And I pray that as we do so, as we grow closer together, as we have fellowship, as our relationships grow strong, it'll help build the foundation of our community so that we can now start look outside and to bring other people outside of our community into our community. Use our churches to share your gospel. Use our churches to share the love and hope that you have, and help people who don't have hope, who don't have love, to experience it through our communities. Be with us through the rest of this day, the rest of this year. Be with our churches. Help us to truly experience you, and help our churches to be outposts of the kingdom, whether we're in South Bay, whether we're in Northern LA, Southern California, wherever we are, to help spread your message to those who need to hear it. Hear me pray? Amen.
What can satisfy what only you can feel? The longing to be known again. Desperately I seek a cup that'll run dry. Fill me with your love again. Purify my heart, my one desire, to lay at your feet. Jesus, I give to you every part of me, my everything. Surrender all my cross, count it all as loss, your everything.
What can part